Spring season. Spring, in climatology, season of the year between winter and summer during which temperatures gradually rise. It is generally defined in the northern hemisphere as extending from the vernal equinox, day and night equal in length, March 20th or 21, to the summer solstice, year's longest day, June 21st or 22, and in the southern hemisphere from September 22nd or 23 to December 22nd or 23. The spring temperature transition from winter cold to summer heat occurs only in middle and high latitudes. Near the equator, temperatures vary little during the year. Spring is very short in the polar regions. For physical causes of the seasons. In many cultures, spring has been celebrated with rites and festivals revolving around its importance in food production. In European languages, the concept of spring is associated with the sowing of crops. During this time of the year, all plants, including cultivated ones, begin growth anew after the dormancy of winter. Animals are greatly affected, too. They come out of their winter dormancy or hibernation and begin their nesting and reproducing activities, and birds migrate poleward in response to the warmer temperatures. Spring and springtime refer to the season, and also to ideas of rebirth, rejuvenation, renewal, resurrection and regrowth. Subtropical and tropical areas have climates better described in terms of other seasons, for example dry or wet, monsoonal or cyclonic. Cultures may have local names for seasons which have little equivalence to the terms originating in Europe. Meteorologists generally define 4 seasons in many climatic areas: spring, summer, autumn, fall, and winter. These are determined by the values of their average temperatures on a monthly basis, with each season lasting 3 months. The 3 warmest months are by definition summer, the 3 coldest months are winter, and the intervening gaps are spring and autumn. Meteorological spring can therefore start on different dates in different regions. In the US and UK, spring months are March, April, and May. In Australia and New Zealand, spring begins on the 1st of September and ends on the 30th of November. In Ireland, following the Gaelic calendar, spring is often defined as February, March, and April. In Sweden, meteorologists define the beginning of spring as the first occasion on which the average 24 hours temperature exceeds 0 degrees Celsius for 7 consecutive days, thus the date varies with latitude and elevation. In Brazil, spring months are September, October, November. In the northern hemisphere, for example Germany, the United States, Canada, and the UK, the astronomical vernal equinox, varying between 19 and the 21st of March, can be taken to mark the first day of spring, with the summer solstice around the 21st of June, marked as first day of summer. By solar reckoning, spring is held to begin the 1st of February until the first day of summer on May Day, with the summer solstice being marked as midsummer instead of the beginning of summer as with astronomical reckoning. In Persian culture, the first day of spring is the first day of the first month, called Farvardin, which begins on 20 or the 21st of March. In the traditional Chinese calendar, the spring season consists of the days between Likun, the 3rd to 5th of February, taking Chunfen, the 20th to 22nd of March, as its midpoint, then ending at Lixia, the 5th to 7th of May. Similarly, according to the Celtic tradition, which is based solely on daylight and the strength of the noon sun, spring begins in early February near Imbolc or Kintlemas and continues until early May, Belton. The spring season in India is culturally in the months of March and April, with an average temperature of approx 32 degrees Celsius. Some people in India, especially from Karnataka state, celebrate their new year in spring. The beginning of spring is not always determined by fixed calendar dates. The phenological or ecological definition of spring relates to biological indicators, such as the blossoming of a range of plant species, the activities of animals, and the special smell of soil that has reached the temperature for microflora to flourish. These indicators, along with the beginning of spring, vary according to the local climate and according to the specific weather of a particular year. Some ecologists divide the year into 6 seasons. In addition to spring, ecological reckoning identifies an earlier separate prevernal, earlier pre-spring season between the hibernal winter and vernal spring seasons. This is a time when only the hardiest flowers like the crocus are in bloom, sometimes while there is still some snow cover on the ground. During early spring, the axis of the Earth is increasing its tilt relative to the Sun, and the length of daylight rapidly increases for the relevant hemisphere. The hemisphere begins to warm significantly, causing new plant growth to spring forth, giving the season its name. Any snow begins to melt, swelling streams with runoff and any frosts become less severe. In climates that have no snow and rare frosts, air and ground temperatures increase more rapidly. Many flowering plants bloom at this time of year, in a long succession, sometimes beginning when snow is still on the ground and continuing into early summer. In normally snowless areas, spring may begin as early as February, Northern Hemisphere, or August, Southern Hemisphere, heralded by the blooming of deciduous magnolias, cherries, and quince. Many temperate areas have a dry spring and wet autumn, fall, which brings about flowering in this season, more consistent with the need for water, as well as warmth. Subarctic areas may not experience spring at all until May. While spring is a result of the warmth caused by the changing orientation of the Earth's axis relative to the Sun, the weather in many parts of the world is affected by other, less predictable events. The rainfall in spring, or any season, follows trends more related to longer cycles, such as the solar cycle or events created by ocean currents and ocean temperatures, for example, the El Niño effect and the Southern Oscillation Index. Unstable spring weather may occur more often when warm air begins to invade from lower latitudes, while cold air is still pushing from the polar regions. Flooding is also most common in and near mountainous areas during this time of year, because of snowmelt which is accelerated by warm rains. In North America, Tornado Alley is most active at this time of year, especially since the Rocky Mountains prevent the surging hot and cold air masses from spreading eastward, and instead force them into direct conflict. Besides tornadoes, supercell thunderstorms can also produce dangerously large hail and very high winds, for which a severe thunderstorm warning or tornado warning is usually issued. Even more so than in winter, the jet streams play an important role in unstable and severe northern hemisphere weather in springtime.